The alarms started with a single sharp tone, then another. The sound rolled across the alien ship's command deck like a wave, urgent and heavy. The crew froze. Sensors had caught something unusual, something that should not have been there. The alien commander, a tall figure with hard ridges across his skull and eyes like cold steel, stood from his chair. His name was Korak. For 20 years, he had hunted humans across the stars, breaking their colonies, burning their fleets. He thought he knew every trick they could play, but the signal flashing across the main screen was different. "Report," he growled. His voice carried the weight of command and the fear of the unknown. The sensor officer's hands shook as he read the results. "Warship detected, Commander. Human origin. Bearing 12 marks off starboard. Range close. Too close." The deck fell silent. Human warship. The words were enough to chill every alien heart in the room. Humanity had been scattered, beaten, reduced to whispers and fading stories. No human fleet had been seen in decades. A single warship, here, now, drifting like a ghost, was impossible. Korak narrowed his eyes at the display. The ship was there, caught in their sensors, hanging in the dark void of space. No drive flare, no weapon charge, no heat signature. Dead steel drifting between stars. "Is it active?" he asked. "No, Commander," the officer said, his voice thin. "All systems appear offline. Power readings are flat. No movement." Korak did not trust what his eyes told him. Nothing about this was right. "Put it on the main screen." The image filled the view. The warship floated silently, a giant shadow against the stars. Its hull was blackened, scarred by battles long past. Plates of metal looked torn and burned, as if the ship had crawled out of fire itself. Its design was unmistakably human. Sharp angles, heavy armor, and weapons built not for elegance, but for destruction. Yet the ship was silent. No lights shone from its windows. No signals called out into the void. It was a dead thing, or it pretended to be. Korak felt unease crawl into his chest. He had faced humans before. They were stubborn. They were dangerous even when broken. And a human warship left drifting in open space was never to be trusted. His second officer, a younger soldier with nervous eyes, whispered, "Could it be a trap?" "Everything humans build is a trap," Korak said. The crew shifted uneasily. They had stories, too. Old stories of human ships that fought even when they should have been destroyed. Tales of war machines that refused to die, of captains who would rather take the enemy down with them than surrender. Some said the humans had weapons hidden so deep no scanner could find them. Others said their ships could think for themselves. "Bring us closer," Korak ordered. His voice carried no fear, though the crew could feel it pressing in on them like a weight. The alien ship edged forward. The silent warship grew larger on the screen, its scars and shadows clearer now. One massive cannon jutted from its side, twisted and shattered. Another hung loose, broken. Entire sections of its armor had been ripped away. It looked dead. "Life signs?" Korak demanded. The officer checked again, scanning every level, every corridor. At first, nothing. Then his eyes widened. "Commander," I read faint signals. "Human biology, weak but present." A chill spread across the deck. Korak leaned forward. "How many?" The officer swallowed. "At least 4, possibly more. But the readings are unstable. Could be survivors in stasis, could be something else." The crew exchanged glances. Humans were supposed to be finished. Their fleets had been destroyed, their worlds taken. Survivors were scattered across the galaxy, hiding like rats. But this ship still had them inside. Korak's mind raced. If he captured them, he could drag the last human soldiers before the Empire's throne. His name would be sung in every hall. But something in his instincts screamed danger. The humans were never weak prey. They always had claws hidden behind silence, lock sensors on the ship, he said. "Every detail. I want to know if it breathes, if it twitches, if the void itself shifts around it." The crew obeyed. Waves of data rolled across their screens. The warship appeared still, no power, no movement. Yet strange energy spikes flickered at the edges of the scan. Tiny, brief, and gone before they could be locked. Like heartbeats in the dark. The officer looked up, pale. "Commander, we are picking up anomalies. I cannot explain them. They appear Alive, alive. The word struck the deck like a blade. Korak stared at the ship on the screen. Dead metal, burned and broken, but hiding something, waiting for something. He turned to his crew. Prepare a boarding team. The second officer's eyes widened. Boarding. Commander, if this is a trap, then we spring it, Korak said. Better to know the teeth of our enemy than to guess at them. The crew obeyed, though fear pressed into their bones. Boarding a human warship was like stepping into the jaws of a beast. As the boarding team prepared, Korak remained at the command chair. His gaze never left the screen. The silent ship loomed larger, filling the stars with its dark shadow. It waited for them, still and cold, but Korak felt it. The ship was not dead. It was watching. The boarding shuttle launched. A thin craft, darting across the black void toward the human warship. The crew held their breath as it neared the hull. The shuttle's lights cast pale beams across the broken steel. For a moment, nothing moved. Then the shuttle touched down. Boarding team, report, Korak said into the comms, a crackle of static. Then a voice. We are inside, Commander. The air is stale but breathable. Systems are offline. Lights are dead. Korak listened, his claws tapping the arm of his chair. The team moved deeper. Their lights cut across long corridors, walls lined with human markings and shattered doors. The silence pressed against them, heavy and unnatural. Then the voice came again, lower now. Commander, something is wrong. The ship feels awake. Before Korak could reply, the signal spiked. His own ship's sensors screamed. For a heartbeat, the human warship pulsed with energy. So fast the readings blurred, so strong the alarms roared. Then silence. The readings vanished. The boarding team froze. Commander, systems just... The line cut. The screen flickered. For a single second, lights flashed across the warship's hull. Windows glowed. Shadows moved. And then, just as quickly, it was gone. Silent again. The crew of Korak's ship stared in horror. The commander rose slowly to his feet. His voice was low, steady, filled with iron. The humans are not dead. The deck fell silent again. Every crew member felt the weight of those words. Every sensor pointed at the warship. Every heartbeat counted down the moment the silence would break again. The human ship drifted, quiet and dark, but it was no longer just a ghost. It was a hunter waiting to strike, and the aliens had already stepped inside its jaws. The lights came on without warning. 1 second, the warship's corridors were dark and cold. The next, they glowed with a sickly blue light that ran along the walls like veins. The boarding team froze where they stood. Their helmets reflected the sudden glow, their weapons raised but shaking. Commander, one of them whispered over the comms, the ship has power. I repeat, the ship just powered itself. On the alien flagship, Korak's eyes narrowed. He leaned forward in his chair, his gaze locked on the screen showing the warship. It still floated silently in the void, but now faint glimmers of light crawled across its surface. Not full power, not yet, but enough to say one thing. It was alive. Stay sharp, Korak ordered. His claws tapped the metal armrest of his chair. Report every step. Do not relax for a breath. Inside the warship, the boarding team advanced slowly. Their boots clanged against the metal floor. Dust floated in the air, disturbed for the first time in decades. Symbols written in the human language lined the walls, warnings and designations, none of which the aliens could understand. The leader of the boarding team, a veteran soldier named Veklar, raised his hand and signaled silence. Ahead, the corridor split into two. On the right, a wide hall stretched into shadow. On the left, a narrow passage led deeper into the belly of the ship. Left, Veklar said. Stay close. They moved in a tight line. Their lights cut through the dim glow, painting shadows that seemed to move on their own. Every step echoed like thunder. Every breath felt heavy. The second soldier muttered, "This place is wrong. I can feel eyes on us." "Quiet," Veklar hissed. But he felt it too. The ship was not dead. It was watching. A sudden hiss broke the silence. One of the doors along the hall shifted, sliding halfway open with a screech. The soldiers spun, weapons aimed. Darkness stared back at them through the gap. "Scanning," said the technician, lifting a small device. The reading flickered across his visor. His throat went dry. Commander, I'm detecting energy fields behind this door. Hold unstable but active. I cannot identify the source. Before Korak could answer, a voice crackled across the comms. It was not alien. It was human. Leave my ship. The words were low, harsh, and filled with authority. The boarding team froze as if struck. Every soldier's heart hammered. The voice had come from nowhere, from everywhere. Korak's crew on the flagship went still. The translator repeated the words in their tongue. Leave my ship. Korak's eyes blazed. Identify that transmission. The communications officer worked furiously. No channel, Commander. The sound did not come through the comms. It came through the ship itself. Direct broadcast. Inside the warship, the lights above the team flickered once. Then the corridor roared to life. Screens along the walls blazed on, showing images of human soldiers standing tall, weapons ready, their eyes locked on the intruders. The boarding team aimed their guns, but it was useless. These were not living men. They were recordings, holograms, ghosts. Still, the message was clear. Humans were here. Humans were watching. Fall back. Vekla ordered. Back to the shuttle now. They turned, but the corridor sealed behind them. Heavy blast doors slammed shut with a boom that shook the floor. Trapped panic spread. One soldier pounded the door with his weapon. Another shouted into the comms. Commander, we're locked in. The ship is controlling the passages. Korak's jaw clenched. Stay calm. Find another exit. The warship wants you afraid. Do not give it what it wants. The boarding team pushed forward, deeper into the narrow hall. They had no choice. Their lights scanned the walls, catching more human images. Men and women in old uniforms appeared on the screens, silent, staring, as if judging the intruders. Then came the sound, a low thrum, deep within the belly of the ship. It was not engines. It was not weapons. It was like a heartbeat, slow, strong, growing louder with every step. The technician stumbled. Commander, I am reading massive energy spikes across the entire vessel. Systems are waking. This ship should not be able to restart after decades in silence, but it is. Korak's claws tightened. He had fought humans long enough to know they built nothing ordinary. Their ships were weapons. Their machines carried secrets even the Empire feared. But this was different. This warship felt alive. The boarding team reached a massive chamber. The walls stretched high above, filled with machinery and cables. At the center stood a single stasis pod, glowing faintly. Frost clung to its glass. Inside, a figure lay still, Vekla's breath caught. Commander, there is a human here, alive. The chamber fell silent. Even across the flagship, the crew stopped moving, stopped speaking. A living human soldier preserved in the dark heart of a warship waiting. Scan it, Korak ordered. The technician approached the pod, scanner trembling in his hand. Reading? Vital signs. Weak but stable. This human has been in stasis for centuries. The glass shifted. A line of frost melted. A hiss of steam escaped. The pod was opening. Get out! Korak barked into the comms. His voice roared across the deck. Get out now! But it was too late. The pod cracked open. The figure inside stirred. A man rose slowly, his movements heavy but sure. His face was pale, his eyes closed. Then they snapped open, burning with a light that froze every alien heart. He stepped out. His boots struck the floor with authority. His voice echoed across the chamber. Who dares touch my ship? The boarding team staggered back. Their weapons shook. This was no ordinary human. This was a captain. The warship shuddered. Systems across its body blazed awake. Lights burned in every corridor. Engines growled with power. Weapons that had looked broken now hummed with energy. The flagship's alarms screamed. Commander, the sensor officer cried. The human warship is powering up. Energy levels climbing past combat thresholds. Shields online. Weapons online. The impossible had happened. A single human had returned, and with him the warship had risen from death. On board the vessel, the captain raised his eyes to the boarding team. His expression was calm, almost cold. He lifted his hand and pressed it against the wall. The ship responded instantly. Plates shifted, guns slid into place. Lights blazed brighter. You have made a mistake, he said. The boarding team opened fire in panic. Bolts of energy tore across the chamber, striking the human. But the shots never touched him. The walls themselves bent, forming a shield of metal that swallowed every blast. The warship defended its master. The captain's eyes glowed with fire. "This ship is mine. You will not leave alive." The chamber exploded with light. On the flagship, Korak stood frozen, watching as the warship's hull lit with power. His crew scrambled, shouting warnings, targeting systems active. "It has locked on us," Korak roared. "Raise shields! Prepare to fire!" But deep down he knew. The humans were back, and they were not the prey. They were the predators. The silent ship had awakened, and first contact had gone terribly wrong. The first shot came like thunder. The human warship's cannons blazed to life, firing a beam of white energy so bright it tore across the darkness and struck one of Korak's escort ships. The alien vessel never had time to scream. It split in two, its burning halves drifting into the void. On Korak's command deck, alarms roared. Red light painted the walls. Crew members shouted readings as their screens filled with fire, shields collapsing on the starboard side. Human ship locking weapons again, energy levels rising past any known human design. Korak slammed his claws onto the armrest. His voice thundered above the chaos. "Return fire! All batteries full power." The flagship and its remaining escorts lit up the void. Green beams and heavy torpedoes raced across space, slamming into the human warship. Explosions rolled along its hull, tearing plates free, but the ship did not break. Its shields absorbed the worst. Its armor took the rest. Then with terrifying speed, the warship moved. It did not drift like an old relic. It darted like a predator. Its massive frame turned with grace, cutting between beams of fire. The engines roared with a power no alien scanner could measure. It was too fast. Too alive. Korak's eyes widened. Impossible. Human ships are not this fast. On the screen, the warship fired again. Another alien vessel erupted into flame. Then another. The escorts were falling like insects under a storm. Inside the warship, the captain stood tall at the command center. His hand rested on a glowing panel that pulsed with his heartbeat. The ship moved as he willed it, its systems tied to his very breath. He spoke to it in silence, and it obeyed. Together, man and machine fought as one. The boarding team, still trapped inside, felt the walls vibrate with power. Lights burned brighter. The hum of the engines shook their bones. One soldier screamed, "We are fighting from the inside of a beast." The captain's eyes flicked to them, cold and sharp. "You should not have come here." The walls closed around the aliens, sealing them in. Metal claws rose from the floor, grabbing weapons and tearing them away. Screens lit up with human faces, soldiers of the past staring into alien eyes. Her voice filled the chamber, deep and unbroken. "You stand inside a defender of humanity, and you are not welcome." Outside, the battle turned savage. Korak's flagship fired volley after volley. The air itself shook with the sound of cannons. Torpedoes raced through the void, slamming against the human ship's shields. But the warship answered every strike with greater fury. It unleashed weapons the aliens had never seen. Beams cut like blades. Swarms of metal darts flew from hidden bays, slicing through enemy hulls. Drones detached and attacked on their own, firing from impossible angles. The alien fleet crumbled. "Commander, we cannot withstand this," shouted one officer. His voice shook with fear. "Our shields are burning out. Our weapons barely scratch its hull." Korak rose to his full height, his eyes blazing. "Hold the line. That ship is one. We are many. It will fall." But he knew it was a lie. Every instinct screamed that this warship was not one against many. It was an army by itself. Inside, the captain placed both hands on the glowing panel. His voice was calm like steel. "Rise, my ship!" And the ship obeyed. Weapons hidden deep in the hull unlocked and roared. Massive cannons unfolded like wings. The warship moved with speed that mocked its size. In a single sweep, it destroyed 2 more alien escorts. Korak's crew panicked. Some shouted to retreat. Others prayed to their gods, but Korak did not yield. His claws dug into the chair. His voice carried over the terror. "If this is the last fight of my command, then we make it a fight worth telling. Focus fire on its engines. Break its wings. The fleet obeyed. Dozens of beams converged, striking the rear of the human warship. Explosions flared. For the first time, the ship staggered. Smoke and fire poured from its hull. Korak allowed himself a small growl of triumph. It bleeds, but then the warship roared. Its engines surged with brighter light. The smoke cleared as systems healed themselves. Armor plates shifted, moving like skin to cover the wounds. The ship regenerated before their eyes. "Not possible," whispered an officer. The captain inside the ship opened his eyes. His voice thundered across the corridors. "You cannot kill steel that has awakened." He raised his hand, and the warship lunged forward. The flagship shuddered as the human vessel rammed through its formation, shredding 2 ships in its path. Fire and debris filled the void. The screams of dying aliens echoed through comms. "Commander!" cried the sensor officer. "It is coming straight for us." On the screen, the warship's glowing eyes locked on the flagship. Its cannons turned, their tips glowing brighter than stars. Korak stood tall, his voice like iron. "Raise every shield. Fire every weapon. If this is death, we will face it standing." The warship fired. A beam of pure energy slammed into the flagship's shields. The deck shook like an earthquake. Sparks rained from the ceiling. Consoles exploded. Crew members were thrown from their chairs, shields at 20%. "Main power failing? We cannot take another hit." Korak roared above the chaos. "Hold!" The warship fired again. The shields shattered. The flagship's armor buckled. Fires erupted across the deck. Korak was thrown to the ground, blood running from his forehead. He dragged himself back to his chair, his eyes locked on the screen. The human ship was not just winning, it was playing with them, showing its power strike by strike. "This is no warship," Korak whispered. "This is vengeance." Inside the warship, the captain closed his eyes. Memories flickered across his mind. The fall of human colonies, the screams of his people, the fire of alien conquest. He remembered it all, and now he was awake. "This galaxy will remember humanity," he said. The warship unleashed its full fury. Dozens of weapons fired at once. Beams cut ships into pieces. Explosions ripped across the fleet. Drones swarmed, tearing apart engines and reactors. In minutes, what had been a proud alien strike force became burning wreckage scattered across the stars. Only the flagship remained, broken and burning. Korak stood on his ruined deck, smoke swirling around him. His crew lay dead or dying. The ship trembled, its systems failing. But he would not flee. He raised his head and faced the screen, where the human captain now appeared in hologram, eyes burning with cold fire. "You hunted my people," the captain said. "You thought us gone. Now you face the truth. Humanity endures." Korak bared his teeth in defiance. "Then kill me, human. But know this. My empire will come for you. They will not stop until your last flame is out." The captain's face did not change. "Let them come. We are ready." The screen cut. The warship's cannons charged one last time. Light filled the void, and the alien flagship was no more. The silence that followed was heavier than any sound. The wreckage drifted like ashes across the stars. The human warship stood alone, glowing with power, its captain at the helm. The awakening of steel had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same. The screams did not come from the living. They came from the ship itself. As the wreckage of the alien fleet drifted into silence, the human warship pulsed with strange energy. Its halls echoed with voices, hundreds of them, all speaking at once. Some shouted orders, some cried in pain, some laughed with triumph. Yet no living soldiers walked those corridors. The sounds came from nowhere, from everywhere, like ghosts bound in steel. Inside the ruined chamber where the boarding team had been trapped, the survivors staggered to their feet. Smoke filled the air. The human captain was gone. But the walls still glowed with shifting light. Faces appeared on the screens, faces of human warriors long dead. Their eyes burned with fury as they stared into alien souls. One alien soldier pressed himself against the wall. His voice cracked. "They are not real." They cannot be real. The face on the screen leaned closer, whispering words the alien did not understand. Then the lights flickered, and the image changed to another soldier, his armor scorched, blood on his cheek, but his eyes still alive. "Why do you stand in our home?" the hologram asked. The aliens raised their weapons. Their hands shook. Bolts of energy ripped through the screens, but the faces did not fade. The holograms only shifted, showing more warriors. A woman with a sharp jaw and steady gaze. A man carrying a broken rifle, a child clutching a flag. Each figure appeared, stared, and vanished, replaced by another. The technician screamed, throwing his scanner to the floor. "This ship is haunted. These are the ghosts of humanity." The leader, Vekla, grabbed him by the shoulder and shook him. "Hold yourself. They are tricks, nothing more." But even his voice trembled. The warship's heartbeat grew louder. The floor thrummed under their boots. The walls seemed to breathe. The air carried the weight of memory, of rage, of countless voices pressing down on them. Then the corridor doors slammed shut, locking them in darkness. "Commander!" Vekla shouted into his comms. "Respond!" But no voice answered. Korak's flagship was gone. The boarding team was cut off, stranded inside a ship that lived on without its master. A whisper came through the dark. It was not a scream this time. It was gentle, almost kind. "You should not be here." The soldiers spun, lights flashing across the walls. Shadows moved, shaped like human forms. They were not holograms now. They walked step by step, silent and cold. One alien fired. His bolt of energy passed through the shadow. The figure kept walking, its eyes glowing faintly blue. The soldier dropped his weapon and ran. The shadow followed, walking without sound. The others heard his scream cut short. Vekla's blood ran cold. "Stay together. Keep your backs to each other." But the shadows circled them, multiplying with every flicker of light. Far away, deep, inside the command deck of the warship, the human captain watched. His hand rested on the central control panel. His face was calm, but his eyes burned with memory. "These are not ghosts," he whispered to himself. "They are memories. My ship remembers every soul that fell for it, and it will use them." The ship obeyed. The corridors shifted, doors, ceiling, floors twisting, guiding the intruders deeper into the maze. The holograms became more vivid, their voices louder. Battles of the past replayed across the walls. Explosions shook the air. Soldiers cried out in defiance. Humanity's last stand echoed in every hall. The boarding team stumbled through it, their minds breaking under the weight. They no longer knew if they were in the present or trapped in a war long gone. One soldier fell to his knees, clutching his head. "Make it stop. Please make it stop." The hologram of a human soldier stepped before him. The figure knelt, placing a hand on his shoulder. The alien froze as cold passed through his body. The soldier's eyes locked with his. "You will remember us," the human said. Then the alien collapsed, lifeless, his heart stilled by something no science could explain. Panic exploded. The survivors fired wildly, bolts of light scorching walls and ceilings. But the holograms did not die. They multiplied. Vekla tried to hold them together. "Do not break. These are lies. They are—" The floor shifted under him. Metal arms rose and grabbed his legs, pulling him into the wall. He roared, tearing free, but blood poured down his side. The ship itself had tried to consume him. "This is no trick!" Vekla gasped. "The ship is alive!" The survivors ran, their boots pounding against steel. The corridors twisted, always turning them back, always guiding them toward the heart of the ship, toward the captain. As they reached another chamber, the lights flared bright. The walls displayed a battlefield, human ships burning under alien fire, voices shouted, children cried. And through it all, one voice rose above the chaos, a woman's voice. She spoke in the human tongue, but the ship's systems translated her words for the intruders. "You came to end us, But you only made us eternal." The aliens froze. The woman on the screen stared at them with eyes full of rage and sorrow. Behind her, human soldiers fought to the last breath, holding a line that could not be held. Then the vision changed. The same woman stood in the command chamber of the warship, blood pouring from her chest. She reached out and touched the control panel. Her last words echoed across the walls. "This ship will never die." The hologram faded. The chamber fell silent. But the ship's heartbeat grew louder. The boarding team knew what it meant. The warship did not carry only one human captain. It carried the memories of every soul who had given their life to defend it. Those memories were weapons, turned now against the invaders. One soldier dropped his weapon and screamed, "We cannot fight the dead!" He ran into the corridor, and the doors sealed behind him. His scream lasted only seconds before silence returned. Now only Veklar and two others remained. Their eyes darted to every shadow, every flicker of light. Sweat dripped from their skin. Fear had consumed them. The walls opened ahead, revealing a vast chamber unlike any they had seen. At its center stood the captain, alive and real, his eyes locked on them. Around him, hundreds of holograms shimmered, forming ranks of silent soldiers. The captain raised his hand. "You see now, this ship carries not one crew but thousands. Every voice, every face, every warrior who gave their life. We do not forget, we do not forgive." Veklar's legs shook. "You are one man. You cannot stand against an empire." The captain's gaze hardened. "I'm not one man. I'm all of them." The holograms stepped forward. The three surviving aliens screamed, firing every weapon they had. Bolts of energy tore into shadows, tearing through light, but the army kept advancing. Cold hands reached out. Faces of fury closed in. The chamber shook with the sound of 1,000 voices crying out in unison. The warship itself roared, its engines burning hotter, its weapons charging once more. Outside, debris from the battle drifted silently, but the ship inside was alive with rage. The last screams of the boarding team echoed in the captain's ears, then faded into silence. He stood alone, surrounded by his army of memories. His voice carried across the chamber. "You thought us gone, but you cannot kill what refuses to be forgotten." The warship pulsed with light, casting shadows across the stars. The ghosts of humanity had risen, and the galaxy would tremble. The captain's eyes opened, and the ship trembled. For centuries he had been silent, watching through steel walls and broken circuits, guiding shadows and memories. But now the intruders were gone, their screams swallowed by the warship's endless corridors. The battlefield outside lay quiet, wreckage drifting in the dark. Only one heartbeat remained alive inside the ship, his own. He stood at the center of the command chamber, pale light flickering across his face. His uniform was torn, scorched, but his posture was unbroken. His hands rested on the control panel, fingers brushing over ancient runes and cracked metal. "This silence is not victory," he whispered. His voice was low, yet it carried through. The chamber, as if the ship itself wanted every wall to hear. The holograms of soldiers still stood around him. Thousands of faces shimmered in the air, men, women, even children, every soul who had died for the warship. Their eyes fixed on him, waiting. He spoke louder. "We cannot rest. They will come again. They always come again." The holograms bowed their heads. The ship's heartbeat pulsed faster, its lights brightening as if it understood. The captain straightened. "Prepare for the next wave," the ship responded. Panels lit up, engines growled, weapons came alive with a hungry hum. Yet outside there was no enemy in sight, only shattered alien cruisers, burning quietly in the void. Still the captain knew. The Empire would not let this go. The first fleet had failed. A second, larger fleet would come. And when it did, the galaxy would finally remember why humanity had once been feared. Far from the warship, in the Empire's capital, alarms rang through the throne hall of the Dominion. Korak's signal had vanished. His fleet was gone, Only static remained. The Emperor of the Dominion rose from his seat, his eyes narrowing. He was not a creature of panic, but of fury. His voice cut through the chamber like a blade. One human ship does not erase 1,000 of ours, unless it is not a ship, but something more. Advisors trembled, bowing low. One dared to speak. It may be an ancient relic, sire, perhaps something from before the Purge. The Emperor slammed his claw against the table. Then it should not exist. And yet it does. Gather the armada, every warship within range. If this human ghost thinks it can defy us, we will erase it with fire. The order spread like lightning. Across the Empire, fleets began to move. Hundreds of ships, then thousands, converging on the coordinates of the silent warship. The hunt for the captain had begun. Back aboard the warship, the captain walked the corridors. His boots echoed against the steel floor. Shadows followed him, silent and loyal, flickering in and out of sight. They were not alive, yet they moved as if they breathed his will. He paused before a cracked mirror. His reflection stared back, eyes hollow, skin pale, face marked by time. He looked more like a ghost than the warriors who haunted his ship. Why me? He whispered to his reflection. Why did I survive when all of you fell? The shadows around him shifted as though listening. A faint voice rose from the walls. It was not his, but one of the memories the ship carried. Because you would not let us go, the captain closed his eyes. He could still hear them. The voices of his crew, their final screams, their dying breaths. He had tried to join them once, long ago, but the ship had not allowed it. It had bound him to itself, fusing his will with its memory. Now he was both man and machine, captain and ghost. He turned from the mirror. Then I will not waste what remains. If they want war, they will have it. The ship's engines flared, casting light across the wreckage. Slowly, the warship began to move again, its shadows stretching across the void. Hours later, the first scouts of the Empire arrived. Small vessels sent to investigate the wreck. They approached cautiously, their scanners searching, their weapons armed. From inside the warship, the captain watched their signals. His hand hovered over the controls. He could strike. He could obliterate them in seconds. But instead he waited. Go, he whispered. Run back to your masters. Tell them the ghost ship is real. The scouts turned away, engines burning as they raced back to the fleet. The captain allowed it. Fear was a weapon. He wanted the whole Empire to know he was waiting. The holograms behind him shifted, watching silently. One of them, the woman with the sharp jaw and steady gaze, stepped closer. Her voice carried softly. They will come in numbers greater than before. Can you stand against them? The captain did not answer. His eyes stared into the void, cold and unblinking. In the Empire's command hub, reports came flooding in. The scouts' voices were frantic, their words filled with fear. It lives. The human ship lives. It moves on its own. The dead walk its halls. The Emperor listened, his claws tapping against the arm of his throne. His rage grew colder, sharper. So be it, he said. If the humans wish to rise from the grave, then let us bury them twice. He gave the order. The largest fleet the Empire had ever gathered began its march toward the warship. Back on the warship, silence stretched. The captain stood at the command deck, his hands gripping the railing. The holograms formed ranks behind him, silent soldiers waiting for his command. The ship pulsed with energy. The air hummed with tension. The captain spoke, his voice steady but heavy. They are coming. This time in numbers we cannot match. The holograms did not move. Their eyes stayed on him, unwavering. The captain raised his head. But we are not fighting for victory. We are fighting to be remembered. The ship roared in response. Engines flared, weapons powered, shields shimmered with light. The ghosts of humanity stood ready. The captain's voice echoed through the command deck. Let them come. And in the far distance, like a storm rising on the horizon, the first lights of the Empire's armada began to appear. The galaxy was about to witness the second death of humanity, or its rebirth. The stars vanished behind fire. The Empire's armada filled the void, ship after ship dropping from hyperspace in waves. Destroyers, cruisers, dreadnoughts, and carriers formed into ranks so vast they blotted out whole constellations. Their engines burned red, their hulls black and sharp, like the teeth of predators. From the command deck of the human warship, the captain stood silent, his gaze fixed on the approaching storm. The wreckage of the first alien fleet still drifted nearby, torn apart, broken, but the Empire did not hesitate. Their ships ignored the wrecks, as though they were stepping over the corpses of their own. The captain's fingers tightened on the railing. So this is how they answer, not with questions, not with fear, with fire. Behind him, the holograms of fallen soldiers shimmered. They did not blink, they did not look away. Their faces were steady, their ghostly eyes fixed on the endless line of enemy warships. The ship's heartbeat grew louder. Lights pulsed through its corridors, its weapons charging with a deep growl. The ghosts stirred, moving like an army waiting for the signal to march. The captain whispered, "One ship against thousands. The galaxy will remember this." Inside the Dominion flagship, the Emperor himself watched through the great observation window. His cloak shimmered in the light of burning engines. His generals stood behind him, heads bowed. The Emperor's voice was quiet, but it cut like a blade. "This is no ordinary ship. Korak was a fool, but he was not weak. For one human vessel to destroy him, it means it carries more than steel. It carries defiance. Burn it, leave no trace. I will not allow humanity to rise again." The generals bowed lower. Commands rippled across the fleet. Weapons locked. Engines roared. The trap was closing. The captain exhaled slowly. He felt the ship's will pressing against his own. Its hunger burned in his veins. Its memories filled his mind. Every battle, every scream, every soldier who had died within its walls. He was not alone. He was never alone. He placed his hand on the command panel. "Awaken!" The warship obeyed. Panels snapped open. Weapons extended. Cannons lit with fire. Shields shimmered into being. The hum of power shook the walls, and then the ghosts moved. Through the corridors, holograms marched. Thousands of soldiers, silent and steady, filling the ship as if preparing for a final stand. Their boots made no sound. Their weapons were only light, but their presence weighed heavier than any steel. The captain's voice rose. "They think we are one ship. Show them we are an army." The warship roared. The first wave of alien destroyers opened fire. Beams of energy ripped across the void, hundreds of them, each strong enough to cut a station in half. The warship's shields flared, shaking under the impact, but they held. The captain gritted his teeth. "Stronger," the ship answered. Its shields grew brighter, absorbing the storm. Then the captain struck back. The warship's cannons unleashed beams of light so sharp they carved through steel like flesh. The first alien destroyer exploded, torn apart in an instant. A second followed, then a third. The Empire's fleet shifted, spreading wide, circling the warship like wolves. Carriers released swarms of fighters, black wings filling space with buzzing death. Missiles lit the dark, streaking toward the lone human vessel. The captain raised his hand. "Now!" The warship twisted, its engines screaming as it spun faster than any ship of its size should move. Missiles missed their mark, colliding with alien fighters. Explosions rippled through the swarm. The warship's guns did not stop. Each shot burned through multiple targets. Each beam carried not just fire, but memory. The ghosts gave their rage to every weapon. But the Empire had numbers. Dozens of ships became hundreds. Hundreds became thousands. The sky was a wall of fire. The warship fought like a beast cornered, but the enemy never ended. Inside the command deck, the captain's vision blurred. His heart raced with the rhythm of the ship. Each shot drained him. Each shield impact rattled his bones. He was not just commanding the ship. He was the ship. Its pain was his. Its rage was his. Still he stood, still he fought. On the Dominion flagship, the Emperor watched with narrowed eyes. The human vessel destroyed his ships by the dozen, yet it did not fall. "This should be impossible," a general whispered. The Emperor's claws tightened. "Nothing is impossible. Everything breaks." He leaned forward. His voice dripped with venom. "Send in the dreadnoughts." The warship shook as three massive shadows approached. Dominion dreadnoughts, each the size of a city, weapons bristling like the spines of monsters. They fired at once. The blast struck the warship, hurling it across the void. Alarms screamed. Shields flickered. Metal groaned. The captain dropped to one knee, blood dripping from his nose. The ghosts flickered, their forms shaking. The woman hologram appeared beside him. Her voice was sharp but calm. "They want to crush us. Will you let them?" The captain rose, gripping the panel with blood-stained hands. His eyes blazed. Never. He unleashed the full fury of the ship. Beams erupted from every cannon, slicing through a dreadnought's armor. Explosions ripped across its spine. The ship tore in half, its burning remains drifting into the swarm. The other two dreadnoughts pressed closer, firing without pause. The warship dodged, engines roaring, slipping between blasts that should have been impossible to evade. Ghostly hands guided it, human memories whispering warnings. One dreadnought fell, then another. The void burned with wreckage, but the Empire still had more. The swarm thickened. Carriers poured out new fighters. Cruisers pressed in. The warship's shields flickered, weaker now. Its weapons dimmed, slower to fire. The captain staggered, his vision fading. His voice was hoarse. "We cannot stop." Not yet. The ghosts rallied. Thousands of voices rose, chanting without sound, their energy flowing into the ship. Lights flared brighter. Cannons roared louder. The warship became a star of rage. It fought, it burned, it killed, but the armada pressed closer. On the Emperor's flagship, silence filled the throne hall. Every general stared at the burning chaos on the screens. Thousands of ships lost, but the human vessels still fought. The Emperor's eyes narrowed, his claws drawing blood against his throne. "This is no ship," he said coldly. "This is a curse, and curses must be broken." He rose. His cloak rippled like fire. "Prepare my personal weapon. If the fleet cannot kill it, then I will." Back aboard the warship, the captain's knees buckled. The deck swayed. His chest heaved. The ship trembled with him. The hologram of the woman knelt beside him. Her hand, only light, only memory, touched his shoulder. "You cannot fight forever." The captain lifted his head, his eyes blazing with defiance. "Then I will fight until nothing is left." Outside, the armada closed in tighter. The Empire was ready to crush the warship with sheer numbers. The sky burned with fire, and in the heart of it all, the lone human vessel glowed like a dying sun. But suns, even dying, still burn. The next wave was about to begin. The stars shook when the Emperor entered the battle. His personal dreadnought, the Eternal Fang, dropped from hyperspace in a storm of fire. Larger than cities, plated in black steel, thicker than mountains, it dwarfed even the Dominion's other warships. The vessel bristled with cannons that could gut a moon, and its core thrummed with energy, stolen from dying stars. Every alien voice on the comms fell silent. Generals, admirals, soldiers, all bowed their heads as the Emperor's arrival spread across the fleet. Fear and devotion burned in their hearts. Inside the Eternal Fang, the Emperor stood at the forward deck, his silhouette sharp against the burning void. His cloak rippled like living flame. His claws flexed at his side. His voice was cold. "One ship defies my empire. One ghost clings to the past. I will tear it from the stars myself." His eyes burned with a hunger older than the war itself. On the human warship, the captain felt the arrival before he saw it. The very fabric of space trembled. The ship's heartbeat faltered, then raced faster as if afraid. The captain raised his head, his vision blurring, blood drying on his lips. He whispered, "So he has come." The holograms shimmered around him. The woman soldier stepped forward, her face calm, her gaze steady. "The Emperor himself," she said. The captain's jaw tightened. "Then this is the end," the woman shook her head. "No, not the end. The choice." The captain's hand clenched on the control panel. His veins glowed faintly with the ship's energy, his body almost more machine than flesh now. "I will not kneel. Not to him. Not to anyone." The ghosts bowed their heads in silent agreement. The Eternal Fang opened fire. Beams of energy thicker than towers erupted from its cannons, crossing the void in seconds. The human warship's shields flared bright, screaming under the impact. Metal groaned, alarms howled, lights flickered. The ship was thrown back, tumbling through the wreckage. The captain slammed against the railing. Pain shot through his body. His vision darkened, but he held on. Hold! The ship obeyed, stabilizing, its engines roaring. The captain raised his hand. Return fire! The warship's cannons unleashed their fury, lances of light carving across the stars. The beams struck the Eternal Fang's shields. Sparks flared. Energy rippled. But the dreadnought held. Its defenses were too strong, too ancient, too monstrous. The captain's eyes narrowed. So brute force will not break you. The Emperor's laughter echoed across the comms, cold and cruel. Human, you hide behind shadows. You fight with ghosts. But you are alone. You cannot stand against me. The captain's voice rose like thunder. Alone, you are blind. I carry an army. Behind him, the holograms glowed brighter, their ranks filling the deck, their faces blazing with fury. Thousands of eyes burned with defiance. The Emperor sneered. Shadows cannot bleed. They cannot kill. The captain answered with steel in his voice. You killed them once. That was your mistake. Because now they cannot die. The warship roared and struck again. The battle between ship and dreadnought raged like gods tearing at the sky. Every blast shook the stars. Fighters and cruisers scattered, unable to approach as the two titans clashed. The warship moved with impossible speed, weaving through fire, striking with precision. The Eternal Fang answered with sheer, crushing power, each shot a mountain of fire. But the captain felt it, his ship weakening. The shields cracked. The weapons slowed. His body faltered with every hit. The Emperor pressed forward, relentless. His claws tightened on the control throne. His voice carried across the void. You are not fighting for victory. You are fighting because you cannot let go. That is why humanity died. You cling to the past. You do not know when to bow. The captain spat blood, his voice sharp as a blade. We do not bow. That is why we live, even in death. The ghosts roared silently, their forms burning brighter, their fury shaking the walls. The Emperor revealed his true weapon. From the core of the Eternal Fang, a new energy swelled. The ship's entire hull glowed with red light. At its center, a cannon opened, vast, ancient, carved with Dominion runes. It was the Devourer, a weapon built to erase worlds. The Emperor's voice dripped with venom. You carry your ghosts. I will burn them all to ash. The cannon charged, the void trembling with its power. The captain stared, his chest heaving. He felt the weight of it, the certainty of destruction. The ship could not withstand that blast. Nothing could. The woman hologram appeared beside him, her hand hovering near his. Her voice was calm, almost kind. You cannot block it. You cannot run. But you can choose how you fall. The captain's throat tightened. He looked at her, at all the faces behind her, thousands of souls who had followed him into eternity. No, he said, his voice breaking into fire. We do not fall. Not today. He slammed his hand against the control. All power to engines. All ghosts to me. The warship screamed. Its lights flared until they blinded. The holograms surged forward, pouring their energy into the ship, into the captain, into one final strike. The Emperor's cannon unleashed its fire. The warship moved, faster than anything its size should move, faster than physics allowed. It became a spear of light, hurling itself straight into the path of the beam. The two forces collided. The void exploded. Light swallowed everything. On the Dominion flagship, alarms blared. Generals staggered as the shockwave tore through the fleet. Dozens of smaller ships shattered instantly. Even dreadnoughts rocked under the force. The Emperor stood unmoving, his eyes locked on the burning clash. His claws dug into the arm of his throne, carving deep scars into the steel. When the light faded, silence followed. The void was filled with wreckage, fire drifting like ash across the stars. At the center of it, the warship still lived. Its hull was broken, torn, bleeding sparks and flame. Its shields were gone, its weapons silent. But it was not dead. Its engines still burned. Its heart still beat. The Emperor's eyes widened just slightly. The captain's voice came across the comms, ragged but steady. You see now. You cannot kill us. Not me, not my people. Not my ghosts. The Emperor's face darkened with rage. Then I will come myself. He rose from his throne. His claws flexed. His cloak burned like fire. The Emperor was leaving his ship, and the final confrontation was about to begin. The Emperor left his throne the moment his armored boots struck the docking bay of his dreadnought. The entire Dominion fleet felt it. A storm of power radiated from him, dark and crushing. Soldiers bent their knees without command. Generals silenced their voices in fear. Even the ships themselves, alive with strange Dominion circuitry, groaned under the weight of his presence. The Emperor raised his hand. A single claw gleamed with the light of burning stars. "Bring me to him," he commanded. A smaller assault craft detached from the Eternal Fang, its engines burning red. It crossed the void in seconds, headed for the crippled human warship that still clung to life. The Emperor had chosen to end this with his own hands. Inside the warship, the captain stood unsteady at the command deck. His body trembled, each breath heavy, but his eyes still burned with fire. Around him, the holograms of his fallen crew glowed brighter than ever. The woman soldier stepped forward, her voice steady. "He is coming." The captain closed his fist. "Then let him come. We finish it here." He turned to the ship itself, his hand pressing against the railing, feeling its pulse. The engines sputtered, the shield shattered, but the heart of the ship still beat in rhythm with his own. "You've carried us this far," he whispered. "One more fight." The deck lights flickered in answer. The Emperor's craft slammed into the side of the warship, tearing through what little defense remained. Metal screamed as the hull gave way. Fire spilled into the corridors. Then silence, heavy and unnatural. The sound of footsteps followed, slow, cold, each one a hammer of dread against the steel floor. The Emperor walked through the broken ship, his cloak dragging like flame, his claws scraping sparks against the walls. His presence warped the very air, twisting light, pressing weight onto every shadow. Ghostly soldiers appeared in the corridors, blocking his path. Their forms glowed bright, their rifles raised. The Emperor sneered. "Phantoms!" He raised his claw, and with a single swipe, the corridor erupted in fire. The ghosts shattered, their cries echoing. But as the flames died, they reformed, standing again, unyielding. The Emperor's voice deepened, filled with rage. "You are nothing. I killed you once. I will kill you again," the woman soldier's voice carried from the shadows. "You cannot kill what has already given everything." The Emperor turned his head slowly, his burning eyes fixed on the command deck. The captain stood waiting. His uniform was torn, his body weak, but his stance was solid as steel. His hand rested on the ship's core console, faint light running through his veins where the vessel's power touched him. The Emperor entered, towering above him. His armor gleamed with runes of conquest. His claws flexed, dripping energy. His voice cut through the silence. "You are the last captain of a broken race. I offer you one chance. Kneel, become mine. I will bind your ghost to my throne, and humanity will serve in silence." The captain's lips curled into a bitter smile. "Bind me? No, you never understood. We chose this. We are free because we would rather die than kneel." The Emperor's roar shook the chamber. "Then die!" He lunged, claws raised. The duel began. Steel and fire clashed as the Emperor's strike split the deck in half. The captain rolled aside, his hand slamming against the console. Energy surged through him, his body glowing, his fists striking out with raw power. The blow landed against the Emperor's chest, shaking the air. Sparks flew, but the armor held. The Emperor struck back, claws cutting deep into the captain's side. Blood sprayed across the deck. The holograms screamed, their light rushing to the captain, patching his wound, holding him up. The woman soldier appeared beside him, her hand gripping his shoulder. "Stand," she whispered. The captain pushed forward. His eyes burned with fire, his fists glowing brighter, his voice rising. "This is for every human you tried to erase." He charged, slamming his glowing fist into the Emperor's jaw. The shockwave cracked the walls, throwing sparks in every direction. The Emperor staggered back, growling low, then laughed, a sound filled with cruelty. "You think you can wound me? I am eternal. The captain stood tall, blood running down his face, his voice a thunder of defiance. No one is eternal, not even you. The battle tore the command deck apart, the Emperor's claws carved through consoles and steel. The captain's strikes shattered railings and walls. Ghostly figures swarmed, striking at the Emperor, slowing him, distracting him, each one giving their last fragments of power. But the Emperor was strong, too strong. His strikes grew heavier, faster. The captain's body weakened with every blow. Finally, the Emperor lifted him with one clawed hand, slamming him against the shattered console. Sparks rained down. The captain gasped for breath, blood soaking his uniform. The Emperor's eyes burned inches from his face. "You will watch as I break your ship. Then I will burn your ghosts. Then I will erase your name." The captain's eyes, clouded with pain, still burned with fire. His lips curled into a defiant smile. "You forgot one thing," the Emperor frowned. "What?" The captain's hand pressed against the ship's glowing core. "I am the ship." The entire vessel roared to life. The lights flared. The engines screamed, and the holograms all surged into the captain's body. Thousands of voices became one. Thousands of wills merged into his own. The captain's form blazed with pure light. His flesh no longer flesh, his body no longer bound by bone. He became the warship itself. The Emperor staggered back, his eyes wide. The captain's voice shook the stars. "This is humanity," he charged. The final clash ripped through the warship. The Emperor struck with claws that split mountains. The captain struck with the force of an entire fleet bound into one. Light and darkness collided, shockwaves tearing the wreck apart. The Dominion fleet watched from a distance, frozen, unable to approach. The wrecked warship burned like a star, the Emperor's dreadnought trembling under the waves of energy. Inside, the duel reached its peak. The Emperor roared, his claws piercing deep into the captain's chest of light. But the captain only grinned, blood and fire mingling. "You can kill me," he whispered, "but you cannot kill us all." With his final strength, he wrapped his blazing arms around the Emperor, locking him in place. The ship's core overloaded, the ghosts sang in unison, and the warship exploded. Light consumed the void. The Dominion fleet staggered, hundreds of ships breaking apart in the shockwave. The Eternal Fang cracked down its spine, fire pouring from its hull. The Emperor's scream echoed across every comm, before vanishing into silence. When the light faded, nothing remained of the human warship. No hull, no captain, no ghosts, only drifting ash across the stars. But in the silence, every Dominion soldier felt it. A shadow in their hearts, a fire in their fear. The humans had not bowed. They had not broken. They had not been erased. And somewhere in the endless dark, a whisper lingered, "We are still here."